I'm Mark Adams, and this is Marksmess 50 for 50, where each week I will look at a year in my life to find the geek influences, ending up looking at the year 2021 on my 50th birthday. This week we look at 1971. I was born halfway through 1971, the third and last surviving son of John and Bea, school head teachers. My first memories will not appear for a few episodes, so all the geekiness comes from a retrospective feel. It is very odd looking at my life when I was born. Decimal currency came into the UK, making maths lessons easier for millions of school children. Musically, the year was bookended by Clive Dunn singing Grandad in January and Benny Hill's Ernie, the Fastest Milkman in the West in December. And the movies didn't fare much better. On the Buses, based on the alleged sitcom, along with Carry On Loving and the second worst Dad's Army movie of all time, all came out this year and have aged worse than me. So I'm not too sure how much influence anything had for me for the first couple of years of my life outside food, pooping, and how cute my little toes were. But the fantasy series that started in 1971 and had an impact on my cultural development was an animated series created by David McKee, and of course it was Mr. Ben. Theorising that one could relieve boredom by trying on outfits from a fancy dress shop, Mr. Ben stepped out of the changing room by the second door, not the door to the shop. He finds himself in the past, or the future, but definitely on an adventure. His only guide on this journey is a shopkeeper who pops up after the adventure to bring Mr. Ben back to the shop. With only 14 episodes of 15 minutes each, made in 1971 and 1972, this was an amazingly popular children's show. I seem to remember it being on all the time through my first few years. Narrated by jobbing actor Ray Brooks, who appeared in Daleks Invasion Earth 2051, each episode followed a familiar pattern. Mr. Ben would be in his house in 52 Festive Road to find a problem. Roadworks, hot weather, etc. He would don his black suit and bowler hat and pop along to the costume shop, where the fezzed shopkeeper would suggest a costume that Mr. Ben would try on and leave the changing room through a magic door to have an adventure related to the original problem and to the outfit. After the adventure was over, the shopkeeper would invite him to return to the changing room. The storytelling was simple, and like a good children's book, it relied on the pictures to add to the story in that way that children would then feel that they knew more than the adult storyteller. For example, when the shopkeeper appears at the end of the adventure, the narrator calls him a man, while we can see that it is the fezzed shopkeeper. The animation was very basic and was little more than showing pictures from the Mr. Ben books, with camera movement and transition shots creating action. To be honest, it is only in the research that I noticed that, and it must not have mattered to me as a child. The stories gave a sense of adventure of an ordinary man encouraging the imagination of little Mark as he sat glued to the idiot box, wishing he had a fancy dress shop in our village. In 1971 was a year the future walked in the door. We not only had more men on the moon with Apollo 14 and 15, but we also had the first manned space station with Soyuz 1. Another first was the first email and the first online chat rooms, with the first discussions probably complaining that the first Autons were not the real Autons and how Pertwee is not my doctor. In comics, Ra's al Ghul makes his first appearance in Batman Comics number 232, and over in Marvel, the Avengers begin the infamous Kree-Skrull War in Avengers 89. Both Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and Bedknob and Broomsticks premiere as well. Maybe 1971 wasn't such a bad year, and at least I had Mr. Ben for the adventures. If you would like to contact me and reminisce about 1971, you can by email at mymarksmess@gmail.com or on Twitter at marksmesspodcasts without the T, and on Facebook at Marksmess Podcasts. And thank you for coming along this journey with me. Bye!